3, 2.
All right, good morning and welcome to the $1 Million Business LinkedIn Live podcast. And today I have Dave Vetter with me.
That's me. Yep.
It's good you're back.
Yeah, it's great to be back.
I'm glad you're back on the show.
Kind of had fun with these.
Yeah, this is a great, I actually love this. It's the highlight of my day.
Really? That's great.
Yeah,
I can see why.
Well, because I get to talk and I don't have to work. You know what I mean? We just get to jabber about a bunch of stuff that's going on at Evergreen Brands or TransBlue or Condo Shield or any of the different brands, Snow Bros that we're rolling out. But this is all about the $1 million business. This is all about $1 million business ideas, and I think one of the topics that we often discuss as we work with franchise owners or we work with different businesses is really focused on engagement.
Oh God, that's so true.
Because if you're not engaged, there's no way you're going to make $1 million business, right?
No. You can stumble across some money from time to time, and you can stumble through things, but you'll move up almost as many times as you move down if you're not really focused, not engaged.
You've got to be engaged in your business. What's some of the ways that you've seen owners not be engaged in your business? Like they say, hey, they come in and we put these, we have these awesome culture meetings, right? And we talk about goals and we talk about planning and we talk about hitting those goals. And, then somebody might leave. And what are they going to do with the information that they learned, first, right? Because we do all the planning and we put all that in front. But on your side, what have you seen in business that doesn't represent engagement and that doesn't allow or that hinders a potential entrepreneur from achieving the success that they want from an engagement angle?
Wow. Yeah, that's a great question. The one thing that I really recognize when we're dealing with the different franchise owners that we have at Evergreen Brands and then on top of that, just in business in general, when I've engaged with friends of mine or just different business partners or different business relationships that I've got, is I was always taken back by how many people are not as engaged in their business as you would expect. That would just come to mind as far as being a leader. They definitely maybe know their product. They definitely know maybe who their customer is. But there's so much more to business to tie all that together. And I think a lot of times it comes from never being a business owner before. Or maybe if they were a business owner before, maybe it was just not to the scale that they're at now. And so what I've noticed as far as business engagement is there's actually a lot of different areas of a business that maybe people are not as engaged in. And maybe it's just because they just don't feel as confident in that area. And let me give you some examples. So like financial engagement, understanding where your numbers are at, culture engagement, understanding what the trend of your staff and everybody in your organization, like what do they all feel about, how do they feel about your company, and how do they feel about your customers, and how do they feel about your product, and how do they feel like, which direction do they feel like the company's going in. Operational engagement. Some people are just kind of, I don't know how it all gets done. I just come up with this idea over here and I hope it all gets taken care of. And then customer engagement. A lot of times people are maybe not as good talking about or talking with their customers, and really just they're almost shy in some instance like that. And so just the same way that we're very socially active as far as on social media goes, and just being out there and having a presence and letting our customers know a little bit more about us are they doing the same thing in their business? So there's multiple levels. I think the first one that's a priority, shockingly a priority to me, is financial engagement. I think that's the one that
financial engagement. So
yeah.
Financial engagement. So for somebody on the call, they want to start a business, they are interested in, or maybe they're interested in taking their business to the next level, or maybe they have been in business for a long time, but they're just struggling to make ends meet. You said that the number one thing that you see is a lack of financial engagement. So best practices, benchmarks, Walk us through what best practices you think should be in place for someone to be successful. So for someone to reach that $1 million mark, what do you think they need to do?
Well, and this comes back to what surprises me. Everybody that's probably watching this is thinking, it's like, well, of course I'm going to pay attention to money. The whole reason I'm in business is to make money. Why would I not pay attention to my money? Well, there's a difference between your financial acumen as a business owner and just balancing a checkbook, right? One is an immediate concern. Do I have enough money in the bank to pay this bill? I've got this coming up and that. That's balancing a checkbook. The true business financial acumen is understanding not just the immediate picture, what's the overall picture, where are the goals and where are the risks, and making sure that you are protected from those risks, and then making sure you're taking advantage of opportunities financially, whether that's through restructuring loans, whether that's a different investment that provides maybe a little bit of an advantage on say end of year taxes or something like that. Maybe it's making choices on personnel and how you're staffing. But it's surprising to me that people aren't as engaged in that. So the number one thing is you have to know what your plan is. You have to understand how you're going to reach your goal. What is your goal? So I would call it the goal, not really. And what's your plan to reach that goal? And how are different things affected? So I meet a lot of business owners that can tell me what their weekly payroll is, or annual or monthly payroll, but I ask them where they're going to finish the year at, and they'll tell me what their original goal was, but they have no plan, and they're not monitoring that, and they don't really have an idea. Well, I want to do $2 million this year. Well, they can tell me on sales. Well, what about your profit? Well, I wanted to make 15%. Okay, are you on track to make 15%? I don't know. And that always blows me away. And that's the biggest shock, is that they don't know if they're on track to hit that or not. And they'll have some rough idea in the back of their head, but that is something you need to make that happen. You need to make your goals happen. And if you are looking at a profit and loss statement, if you're the business owner that's out there and you're running your operation and you just want to run a P&L and a balance sheet, and you just look where you're at right at the moment, you look how you did in the month of, say, July.
Yep.
And that's history. You can't affect that anymore. Nope. That's in the books now.
That's done.
And so what a $1 million business idea, look at your books, look at your numbers when you still have the opportunity to change those numbers. Look at how, for example, we're about ready to start the month of September here. And look at that month in September, in the end of August or the beginning of August, and look out. Well, okay, here's our projection on our sales. Here's our projection on our material spend or on our labor spend. This is what's coming up as far as just different investment, whatever those things are, and decide if those current plans are going to get you to where you need to be. Well, no, we're off. Say I'm $100,000 off on my year. That would be terrible. I would never want to be there. But, well, depends on, I guess, how big you are. But being $100,000 off going into the month of September, well, how are we going to make that up? I've got so many more months in the year. I want to take a chunk of that off in the month of September. So it's not just good enough executing my plan. How can I adjust my plan in September to clog back 20, 25,000, 30,000 of that towards my net profit so that I know that I can finish my year where I wanted to be? And that's forecasting. That is forecasting, and it should be done regularly. If you're going to be, depending on how big your company is, you probably have, if you're a big company, maybe you have a whole team of people that's helping you forecast. But I'm surprised how many new business owners, if you're a first-time business owner, that are just worried about the moment. And I understand that you got to be focused on that, but you want to hit your goal. That's the whole reason you do this.
Absolutely.
And you want to be there. And so it sounds like a very basic idea, but this requires discipline. And
I feel like I want to whip out the whiteboard, man.
God, that would be great.
I'm ready to get my little Sharpie pen and start. And I said Sharpie, so we make it in permanent marker. I'm ready to get on that whiteboard and start scribbling, man. My brain is going crazy with ideas.
So be engaged on your business plan, because we are all in business to make money, and that can't happen if you are not paying attention to that. And otherwise, you're just riding your own roller coaster. That's the best way I put it.
And that can be a hell of a roller coaster, too. It can be one of those roller coasters that goes upside down and makes you sick.
Absolutely.
Don't ever ride the roller coaster at the Mall of America. Note to self, you will not feel human for at least 24 hours after you ride that thing.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, I think that what you've touched on something that I think is really important. I think we need to spend some time diving into this because, it is true. And if we look at a best practice, the thing that really comes to mind is a scorecard is what, really one of the things that I want to see. Because if I'm the owner on the other end of the line, I'm like, Dave, this sounds great, but I don't have the time.
Right.
I don't have time to do this. I got a fire at Mrs. Smith's house. Mrs. Brown's house is actually on fire. And, we got a swimming pool that's got a problem. And I had 2 guys quit the other day and my truck broke down. And I got my wife's sister's getting married on Sunday. And I said I would build the pergola and I haven't started yet. And, just everything that happens in a contractor's life, right?
That's right.
A contractor, in my opinion, always has 10,000 reasons why they're too busy to do what's important, which is manage their cash flow. And then when they look at their bank and they don't have anything in it and there's nothing there, then they go hunting for people that they think owe them money.
Right.
And they just, they're just trying to collect. They're robbing Peter to pay Paul. I guarantee you there's many, many people on this call today, many people all over the place that are robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with not knowing your financials, not being engaged in your financials. There's no way that you make $1 million without knowing your financials. And part of that is, one, it all starts with sales, right? So the first thing that we want to start to identify, if we're taking scorecards, if we're writing down items and, stuff like that is, we want to know, okay, if we want to sell $1 million in a year, how much is that per month?
That's right.
Right? So that's our first little metric there, and that tells us what we need. And then what we want to know is our close rate on the sales, right?
That's right.
We got to know how many sales we close.
Yeah, working it backwards.
That's right. Is your close rate 30%? Is it 20%? Is it 18%? Is it 22%? What is your close rate? And then what are your most profitable jobs? When you look at your cost of goods sold, what are the most profitable jobs that you are doing for your clients? And one of the things that we actually find or that you see is you might say, man, we're doing a ton of concrete. We do so much concrete work. We're the concrete kings. And then they look at the concrete and it's like they're only making 6% on the concrete.
Right.
And they look at maybe synthetic turf and it's like, well, they're doing 25% of their business in synthetic turf, but they're making 50% on it.
Yeah.
So it's really understanding what you're selling to your clients and making sure that you're selling the most profitable items. And then putting your sales focus and your sales attention into what makes you the most money. There's no point in putting money towards items that, aren't making you the profit that you need. That's called a hobby, right? And if you want to do that, you should take up boating, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, even the government calls it that. You don't
That's
show
right.
a profit after so long. They just consider it a hobby.
They call it a hobby, right? So you want to have a focus on, what's really good. And you want to save for your hobbies too, right? You're a boat guy.
I am a boat guy. I love boating. I love being on the water.
What's your favorite boat?
Oh, man. I've been looking at like a Beneteau, and so around here we have Puget Sound.
Yeah.
And I'm a saltwater guy. Don't get me wrong. I love taking boats out to the lakes or the rivers around here, big lakes, big rivers in Washington State. But
you're a saltwater guy.
Saltwater guy. Now the ocean, it gets a little extreme. The further out in the ocean you go, the bigger the boat you got. But Puget Sound's got a lot of stuff. It's basically like
cool.
It's got all the islands, got the San Juans and stuff. So that's it. Probably like a 40. Somewhere between like a 40 or 50 footer. That would be great. That's perfect.
What does one of those boats cost?
$1 to $5 million.
That's an expensive boat. What we need to call
that's new. Yeah.
We need to call this the $5 million business idea. No, but seriously,
You can
like
make payments on it or
hey, I believe that you should live your best life possible.
Yep.
And if you're building $1 million business and you love boating, that should be a part of your financial plan.
Yes.
Like there's got to be some reward. There's got to be some bonus to it, right? Like you don't want to do all this hard work just for nothing.
Just for what, a wakeboard or not a paddleboard?
Paddleboard,
No.
And we see a lot of business owners and they go into business and you know what? A lot of guys, and this is the truth, their own employees, their own staff members walk away with much more money every year than they ever do as an owner.
Yeah.
A lot of times the owner is barely surviving.
Yep.
And, employees are doing pretty good, but the owner is barely surviving because he's taking care of his guys, he's doing it, but he's not financially engaged in his business.
Yep.
He's not running, the books like we talk about. So really having that scorecard, what are your sales? What do you need to sell? How many estimates do you need to be in front of? How much does each estimate cost you? Where do you get the estimates from? Really dialing that into your plan.
Absolutely.
And then some of the stuff that we look at is that, and one of your favorite statements, I think, and it's a great statement, is, the sale is only worth half the money.
That's right. Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, that's
operations
exactly
is responsible for the other half.
Right. The sales guy, especially in construction, there's a lot of down payments and everything. It's a down payment, a lot of cash flow when it comes to construction projects, especially renovations and stuff. Well, just any project. And so the salesperson brings that first down payment in. You don't get a down payment if you don't make the sale.
Right.
And so that's the beginning of your revenue. But it is absolutely the operations team that needs to bring in the second half. So if you did a 50% down or 25% down, operations brings in all the rest of the money through their actions and what they do. But the interesting thing is for many businesses, the biggest payday and many times is also closing the job. And so you got to be engaged in your business, because it's one thing to say, oh great, we have all this big book of work, but how long is it taking you to execute that work? Right. What are you doing to move those projects to completion as quickly as possible? And I think that's a big key, quickly as possible. And what decisions are you making as far as prioritizing those projects?
And our financial scorecard needs to show that.
That's right.
Cash collected.
Cash collected.
And you talked earlier a little bit about forecasting. Mm-hmm. Well, you got to forecast, when are these jobs going to end?
Right.
When am I anticipating to see my revenue from these projects?
Yep.
Without that, we don't know what's going to happen in December.
No.
But if we look at December and we say, well, we've got 8 jobs closing and that's going to bring in $300,000, $500,000, $1 million, whatever, mm-hmm. we now know what we can plan for in the month of December, and we can tailor our spending. We can tailor the things that we need to do to be able to manage that cash flow.
Right. And there's another thing that I see that I'm sometimes surprised by, and that is when owners can really get that tunnel vision towards maybe one project or a couple projects that are a little off the rails. They're having a couple issues and everything, and they'll focus in on those issues, and that's good. I mean, customer service, you want to make sure that the customer is taken care of, and it is project management. If everything went perfect, you wouldn't need project managers.
Yep.
So, but at the same time, you can't ignore the projects that are going well. You got to keep them on track, because
Absolutely.
if you spend all your time focused on a couple little issues, and just through attrition, just through timing, and just through the delays, and just through the lack of attention, 5 other projects start going a little south, because you're just so focused on one. That also affects your numbers. That also affects your ability to hit that goal that you've got for that month, because you were supposed to close those 5 other projects too. And if you've got a couple things, don't let yourself get sidetracked on that. Be engaged with everything, not just a couple things.
We've also got to continue to watch our accounts receivable.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
We don't want those dollars getting 90 days, right? We don't want to see that. We want to see those 60 days, 60 days. We want to know, where we're at. Okay, all the money's collected, 1 to 30, we're all collected up, right? We really want to be watching that, because if you're not watching the henhouse, fox get in there, you know what I mean? So we really want to be focused on, where are our collections at?
Yeah, like you said earlier, this is not a hobby, and most businesses are not nonprofits. Most of them are there. We're all into the business. We all take anybody that owns a business is taking that risk to make a better life for themselves. And in order to do that, you definitely have to collect the money. I've talked to some project managers and asked them, what is your job description? Like, what do you do, and what's your number one task? And they'll tell me, well, I'm a project manager, and I'm there to make sure that, all the subcontractors do this, or the building gets done this way. Well, have you ever thought of yourself as your primary job is customer service? That's really what you're there. You're there to make sure the customer's taken care of. obviously you got to make sure the project goes well, but your primary job is customer service, taking care of your customers.
Yeah.
You know what your number one task is? Make sure the jobs go smooth. No, it's to collect money.
That's right. That's right.
You know,
Get paid,
get
man.
paid,
Get paid.
is to collect money. You're
That's
supposed
right.
to get yourself into a position where you could go to your accounting team and say, it's time to bill Mrs. Smith, or, you know, the Hendricks job,
That's
or
right.
the Franklin building, or
That's
whatever
right.
that is. Yep, that's your
And
number
if
one
we
job.
focus on that incredible customer experience, it makes it a lot easier to get paid,
Yep.
which also gives us more 5-star reviews, which also makes our business more profitable, which also validates who we are as a customer. We were just talking about that yesterday with one of our new brands, you know, was just really focusing on 5-star reviews, 5-star reviews,
Yep.
5-star reviews, you know, and how important that is. And so, you know, as you build your business, you've got to see that scorecard. And the purpose of that scorecard for you as the owner is, one, you get a snapshot of what's happening every single week. So where are your accounts receivable at? What's been collected?
Yep.
You know, what's outstanding debt? How many jobs have been sold? You know, how many estimates did you need to run to hit that ticket number? You know what I mean? What was the cost of acquisition per client? And the cool thing is, when you start to understand your cost of acquisition per client, you know that if you need to do 30 jobs, you know, and it's $1,000 per job, you know you're going to spend $30,000 to get those.
That's right.
But what happens is, when you can start focusing on referrals, and you can focus on, you know, really providing that incredible customer experience, and then you can set a metrics or a benchmark that says, hey, I want to turn every one customer into 4 new customers, meaning I want 4 referrals out of every customer. What happens? Right? It becomes really, really powerful, because now the cost of acquisition goes down, right? That cost of acquisition goes from 1,000 to, you know, 250 if you can bring 4 new customers out of it. So really focusing on how you build your business, focusing on that experience, but that ties into culture, right? Because you got to be engaged in your culture. You got to be engaged in what you're doing. You know, a franchise owner came to me and said, you know, hey, I've got a project manager, and he's focused on closing out the jobs, and, you know, he's not getting any 5-star reviews. And the project manager comes back and says, well, that's not what's important here. What's important here is that I've got to get all my jobs done, and I've got so many jobs on my plate that I don't have time to focus on reviews. And that's a culture thing.
That is a culture thing. And
Right.
I said earlier that you know, the number one job is to collect money, but that's not the only task of a
Right.
project manager. And you're exactly right. The idea behind, if you're going to grow your business, that $1 million idea, that project manager that says, I don't have time to do the 5-star reviews, I've just got to get my jobs done, he's on a linear path. He is just
Crushing.
He's crushing, but at the same time, he's not growing. He's
No.
not doing anything to help your business aside from just paying a certain level of bills.
Right.
But you get those 5-star reviews, even though he is crushing it and doing that, but he spends that, God, how much time does it take to ask a customer for a 5-star review? They're sitting there, wow, this is great. I love the project you've done. This has been such a great experience. Right at that moment, you get those key words that you hear from a customer. That's the perfect time to ask them for that. And it only takes a few seconds.
Absolutely.
And by getting that 1 5-star review, even though he's crushing those jobs, it just puts your sales team in a better position to where now they're following up on more leads. So inadvertently, he's helping your business. And that's good customer service. And it's also understanding where we're at in society today too, right?
Yeah.
It's being engaged and just understanding that if you're not used to social media, you're not using social media, you don't, the new buyers, there's the generation that's grown up on social media is now a demographic with money. It's
Yep.
no longer the kids in school that are using that. This is a demographic that has a ton of cash.
That's right.
They are young professionals. They are now leaders of industries, and they still use social media like obsessively almost.
Yeah, they're doing a lot. They're checking you out.
Yeah, and
They're doing a lot of research.
Yeah, we've talked about it before. What the Amazonification of society, right?
Right.
Everybody's buying online. So if you think that you don't need you're always talking about it, the LinkedIn post, the Instagram, and just understanding that part of your business, it puts your name out there because you're not just if you're running Google AdWords or something like that, I hope it's working for you. But that's not the kind of engagement. So the culture, like you said before, being engaged in your culture, making sure your team understands how the way that they approach their job, what your business is trying to do, and getting them to engage with you. It's not just on how they engage with the customers, it's how they engage with each other, right? That camaraderie, that teamwork. And
creating that
making them be
culture of
excited.
discipline. Creating that culture of discipline, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is our scorecard. This is what I have to see every single week. I have to see these numbers. I have to see, what's happening. Like, I expect you to run 130 leads in a month, right? I expect you to close 16 jobs in a month. Yep. I know that to do that, we're going to need 150 call-ins, which means how many call-ins do I need every single day? I need 5 call-ins every single day. Where do I going to get those? What does my advertising look like? Where am I advertising? Those things right there. Where are my ARs? How much have I collected? Are we on top of it? Listen, we've got to do some serious billing at our own company here in the next day.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? Billing is out on the 1st.
That's right.
But that's something that we're going to pay attention to make sure we get our money by the 10th.
We actually have been engaged and been preparing ourselves for that.
We're engaged, right? But that's what it takes. You want to build that $1 million business. You want to take your life to the next level. You want to put that boat. Say the name of that boat again and again.
Beneteau.
Beneteau.
Yeah.
You want to buy a Beneteau for between $1 and $5 million, a 40-footer, and cruise around on that bad boy. You got to get your scorecard in place.
Man.
But that also has to be a goal, whatever it is personally. Whether you want to give money back to charity, whether you want to put your kids through college, whether you want to buy a beach house, whether you want to have a farm with 2 horses, whatever it is, you want to retire at 45, whatever you want to do, you got to write that down. You got to put that goal down, and then you got a scorecard and you got a benchmark against it so that you can measure it. And if you don't measure it, you're never going to get it. If you want to build $1 million business, you got to know how. How many sales do I need to get $1 million business? Well, if the average sale is $100,000, how many sales do I need? 10. I made that super easy. If it's $25,000, how many sales do I need? I need 40. Okay, I need 40 sales in a month.
Right.
Right? How many months are there? There's 12. So I need like 3.2 sales a month.
That's right.
Can you do that? Can you make that happen? And that's how we're talking to our sales team. Because at the end of the day, that $1 million goal can seem daunting.
Yes.
But in reality, it's only 3.2, 3.5, 3.3, whatever it is, jobs a month.
Yeah.
Just round it up and call it 4. That's nothing. That's a job a week. We make it simple. Hey, all you need to do is sell 1 job a week.
Yeah.
You want your $1 million business? Cool. Hey, if we want a $2 million business, I need you to sell 2 jobs a week.
That's right.
And if we want a $3 million business, I need you to sell 3 jobs a week.
Yep.
And if we need a $4 million business, I need to sell 4 jobs a week. And then you get to buy the boat.
It sounds very simple. It sounds very simple, and honestly, it really
It is that simple.
It is really that simple, but it is shocking to me sometimes when I talk to people and they can't tell me what those numbers are.
But that's why you scorecard.
You've got to.
That's why you scorecard. So if you're interested in reaching out to us, if you're interested in learning more, you can find me on LinkedIn under Dave Wescott. You can find Dave on LinkedIn at David Vetter on LinkedIn. You can hit us up. You can send us a message. You can talk more. If you want to learn more about what we do, check us out. TransBlueFranchiseCompany.com is one of the places you can find us. TransBlue.com, CondoShield.org. Those are some of the places that you can find us hanging out. But definitely check us out on LinkedIn. Give us a follow. If you love the content, share it. And we'll be back next week, same bat time, same bat channel. Thanks, Dave. It was great having you on the show today.
It was great. If I blanked out a little bit thinking about being on my boat, I apologize.
That's okay. I blanked out too thinking about how to get on your boat. So we had a good time with the boat.
It was good.
So number 1, pick out what boat you want and where you're going to drive that son of a gun, and then build your $1 million business so that you can get on the boat.
Absolutely.
Peace.
Thanks.